how to never get angry or bothered by anyone. As the great Carl Jung once said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. In a world full of triggers, how do we remain calm, centered, and untouched by other people's energy? This video is your guide to mastering emotional freedom, so you no longer react out of pain, but respond from wisdom. At Spiritual Wisdom, we believe true peace isn't about avoiding people. It's about transforming how you relate to them. Have you ever felt hijacked by someone's words or energy? Comment below with your experience, and let's explore together how to reclaim your inner power, no matter the chaos around you. 1. You're not triggered by them. You're triggered by what's unhealed in you. When someone offends you, it's easy to believe that they are the problem. Their words, their attitude, their energy. But the truth, as Carl Jung taught, is far more revealing. You're not triggered by them. You're triggered by what's unhealed in you. What stirs your anger or discomfort is rarely about the person in front of you. It's about the unresolved pain, the buried beliefs, the emotional wounds you haven't yet faced. Their comment or behavior is just a match. The fire was already inside. This is spiritual wisdom in its rawest form. Because once you understand that your reactions are reflections of your inner state, everything changes. You stop trying to change the world to feel safe, and you start turning inward. That tightening in your chest, the spiral of thoughts, the heat behind your eyes, it's not just about what happened in the moment. It's about the version of you that never got to speak. The moment you were dismissed as a child, the time you were hurt and told to get over it. When you're emotionally hijacked, you're not really in the present. You're reliving the past, and it's begging to be seen. Most people want control. They want to feel calm, composed, unshaken by the world. So they chase strategies, deep breaths, boundaries, mantras, fake calm. But underneath all of it, the storm still swirls. Because control without awareness is just a temporary escape. Real freedom comes from integration. You don't need to silence the trigger. You need to listen to it. That discomfort is intelligence. That reaction is a messenger. It points to where your love hasn't yet reached. This doesn't mean you tolerate poor treatment or justify others' behavior. It means you take responsibility for your emotional world. It means you begin to ask different questions, not, why are they like this? But why does this hurt me so much? That shift is where power lives. That is where transformation begins. Instead of being pulled into someone else's chaos, you observe it and realize, this isn't mine to carry. That clarity doesn't come from intellectual understanding. It comes from doing the inner work, from facing what you were taught to avoid. Spiritual wisdom teaches that every trigger is sacred. It's an invitation to heal, not to blame. Every person who frustrates you is showing you something about yourself, your expectations, your wounds, your values, your boundaries. They are mirrors, not enemies. Their presence reveals where you are still reactive, still raw, still seeking wholeness through outside validation. But the moment you stop expecting the world to protect your wounds and instead begin to tend to them yourself, you become untouchable, not cold or detached, but centered, aware, and grounded in truth. To never be bothered again is not about building emotional armor. It's about building emotional clarity. You become less reactive, not because you've numbed yourself, but because you've finally seen yourself. You understand what lives beneath your anger, what your sadness is trying to say, and what your silence is begging you to hear. And when you do that, when you meet your emotions with compassion instead of resistance, no one holds power over you. Do you recognize that the trigger isn't about them, but about your own healing? If this truth resonates with you, declare it in the comments. I choose to heal what's within me. 2. Anger is a message, not a problem. Anger is not a flaw. It is not a failure. It is a message raw, loud, and honest. It comes from the rejected corners of your being, from the shadow you've been taught to hide. The very thing you were told makes you unlovable. Your needs, your boundaries, your voice is now rising up to be heard. Anger is not trying to ruin your peace. It's trying to teach you where it was never safe to feel. When you get triggered, when your heart pounds and your jaw tightens, it's not about the person or the comment. It's about what was never healed, what was never seen. Carl Jung once said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." This is not about blame. This is about revelation. Your anger reveals what still aches inside you. Every spike of emotion is an invitation. It says, look here. Look at what still needs compassion. Look at the little version of you that didn't get to speak. Look at the boundary you keep letting others cross. When you treat anger as a sacred signal instead of a shameful flaw, you start healing from within. You stop reacting blindly and start responding with intention. That's the difference between suppression and transformation. That's the heart of spiritual wisdom. True spiritual awakening isn't about becoming endlessly calm. It's about becoming endlessly aware. It's the ability to pause before you project, to listen before you lash out, to hold your pain without letting it spill onto others. Anger doesn't destroy relationships. Unconscious anger does. When you carry years of silence, when you bury your truth, it eventually explodes. But when you acknowledge your fire with tenderness, it burns clean. It becomes clarity. It becomes the truth. It becomes the force that builds boundaries, not barriers. Most people don't want to sit with their anger. They want to escape it, suppress it, pray it away. But the escape becomes another cage. You cannot bypass what your soul has assigned as your next lesson. And in this season, anger may be that lesson. Emotional maturity is not about never being triggered. It's about recognizing the trigger, owning your reaction, and asking, what is this trying to teach me? What unmet need is crying out through this emotion? When you start seeing anger as a compass, not a curse, everything shifts. You become less reactive and more reflective. You stop giving your power to external chaos and start reclaiming it through inner clarity. In that space, you're not controlled by anyone. No one's words, looks, or silence can hijack your peace. You have your emotional sovereignty back. There is nothing more powerful than a person who is no longer afraid of their own fire. A person who doesn't run from their rage, but understands it. Who doesn't justify it, but listens. Who doesn't weaponize it, but transforms it. That is the mark of someone who is awakening. That is the path of spiritual depth. Not avoidance, not perfection, but presence. The courage to feel without being consumed. The wisdom to pause, reflect, and alchemize pain into self-respect. Anger is a doorway, and if you're willing to walk through it, not slam it shut, you'll find a part of yourself you've been waiting your whole life to meet. Have you ever listened to what your anger was really trying to say? If so, share your insights in the comments. Your story might help someone else heal. If not, comment, "I'm ready to listen," so we can begin this journey of self-awareness together. 3. The shadow holds the key to emotional freedom. Your shadow isn't your enemy, it's the gatekeeper to your emotional freedom. Carl Jung taught that everything that irritates us about others can lead us to a deeper understanding of ourselves. The things that trigger you, whether it's someone's loud voice, their emotional intensity, or their bold vulnerability, are often reflections of the very parts of yourself you were taught to suppress. You weren't born detached, guarded, or composed. You were trained to be that way. Somewhere along the line, being sensitive became a weakness. Being needy was seen as shameful. Expressing too much joy, anger, or desire was labeled too much. So you buried it. But what's buried doesn't die. It waits. It becomes part of your shadow. And when someone shows up in your life, embodying the exact traits you've disowned, something inside you tightens. That tightening is the call. The anger isn't about them. It's about you, meeting the abandoned self. That's why integration, not avoidance, is the path to wholeness. You don't heal by deleting people who trigger you. You heal by asking, what in me is rising to be seen? A woman raised to be the strong one, always composed, may find herself irrationally annoyed by someone who cries openly. But her annoyance is actually her shadow saying, I once cried like that. I was shamed for it. I miss that part of me. Or a man who prides himself on being logical might judge someone deeply intuitive. But the judgment is a mirror showing him the part of his soul that once believed in feeling, but was taught to fear it. Carl Jung's spiritual wisdom isn't about becoming perfect. It's about becoming whole. And wholeness means reclaiming every part of you, even the messy, dramatic, impulsive, insecure fragments you've hidden. Triggers are sacred. They lead you to your unhealed places. Emotional freedom is not about being unbothered. It's about being deeply aware. When someone shakes your peace, they are not stealing your power. They are revealing where it was never stable to begin with. This is the invitation to stop reacting and start reflecting. Every emotional reaction is a doorway. The ones who trigger you are not villains. They are messengers. They mirror your inner work. They call you home to the self you lost while trying to be accepted. To be spiritually awake is not to float above pain, but to stand in it, breathe into it, and ask what it came to teach you. That's the shadow's gift. That's Carl Jung's timeless lesson. If this message resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe for more spiritual wisdom on turning emotional triggers into keys to your inner freedom. 4. Emotional mastery is about integration, not suppression. Emotional mastery isn't about being unaffected. It's about being fully aware, about feeling every wave of emotion without letting it dictate who you become. You don't reach peace by ignoring your feelings or pretending they don't exist. You arrive at peace by understanding them so deeply that they no longer control you. Integration doesn't mean staying calm at all costs. It means letting every emotion rise and fall inside you while remaining anchored in your own center. That's not a weakness. That's wisdom. And it's the kind of spiritual wisdom that transforms your entire relationship with the world. When someone says something sharp, it's not their words alone that hurt. It's the memory, the wound, the story it reactivates within you. Your chest tightens, your breath shortens, your thoughts spiral. And in that moment, you have a choice. You can lash out, shut down, or distract yourself. Or you can pause and ask, what is this emotion trying to show me about myself? Carl Jung taught that everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. That's the invitation to stop running from your triggers and start listening to them. They're not curses, they're clues. Suppressing emotion is like holding a beach ball underwater. The more pressure you apply, the more forcefully it will erupt. But when you practice integration, you let the emotion surface, breathe, and pass. You don't identify with it. You observe it. You learn from it. You hold space for it without letting it take over. That's emotional sovereignty, not being immune to pain, but becoming so intimate with it that it can no longer blindside you. A woman once believed her strength came from being the calm one. She never cried in front of others, never got angry, always smiled. But inside, she carried years of unspoken grief and resentment. One day, after a simple conversation triggered her deeply, she didn't suppress it. She didn't perform calm. She sat with her rage shaking, crying, breathing through it, and listened to what it was saying. It wasn't asking her to destroy anything. It was asking her to finally be honest. That moment didn't make her less peaceful. It made her real. From then on, her calm came from truth, not performance. True integration is when you stop splitting your emotions into good or bad, right or wrong. You recognize them all as parts of you messengers, not enemies. And in doing so, you stop being reactive and start being reflective. You're no longer tossed around by other people's energy because you've learned to anchor into your own. Your inner state becomes yours again, not something anyone else can steal. That's how you rise not above your emotions, but through them. Not by pretending, but by integrating. And when you live this way, spiritual wisdom stops being a concept. It becomes the way you move through life steady, present, and deeply free. If this message speaks to your soul, repeat after me. I honor every emotion, and I choose integration over suppression. I am mastering my inner world with grace. 5. Triggers are mirrors and teachers. The people who upset you the most are not random villains in your story. They are precise, intentional mirrors reflecting the unresolved parts of your inner world. That sting you feel when someone mocks you, ignores you, or challenges you. It isn't just about their behavior. It's a signal, a spotlight on the wound you've buried. Instead of asking, "Why are they like this?" which only traps you in blame, ask, "What is this revealing about me?" That question is the beginning of real emotional freedom. Carl Jung said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." That's not just a quote, it's a map. When someone disrespects you and it infuriates you, maybe it's because deep down, you've struggled with self-worth. When you feel rejected and your heart tightens, maybe it's echoing an old story where you weren't chosen. The emotion isn't the enemy, it's the invitation. It's not about controlling others, it's about integrating the parts of you that still hurt. If someone says something untrue about you and it rolls off your back, it's because there's no hook inside you for that comment to cling to. But if their words cut you deep, it means there's something inside you still uncertain, still afraid it might be true. That's where the mirror becomes a teacher. That's where spiritual awakening begins, not in the silence of meditation, but in the heat of everyday emotion. When you react without reflection, you give away your power. You become a puppet to someone else's words, moods, and projections. But when you pause, when you breathe, when you ask, "What is this showing me?" you take your power back. You move from emotional slavery to emotional mastery. That's the essence of spiritual wisdom. Not to avoid emotion, but to understand it, to decode it, to alchemize it. This isn't easy work. Blame is easy. Defense is easy. But healing requires awareness. It asks you to get honest about the stories you're still carrying, the roles you're still playing, and the identities you're still clinging to for safety. And it demands you rewrite them, not to please others, but to set yourself free. Your triggers are not flaws. They are sacred clues. They point you to the places in yourself still waiting to be loved, seen, and heard. Every irritation, every judgment, every emotional spiral is a message from your soul. Not to harden you, but to soften you into truth. Because when you stop asking others to change and start doing the inner work, the world outside you begins to shift. You become less reactive, more grounded. You stop being hijacked by external chaos. You stop needing everyone to like you or agree with you. That is true liberation, not being untouched by life, but being unshaken by it. That is the spiritual awakening your soul has been craving. And it begins not with them, but with you. If this message resonated with you, leave a like, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another moment of self-discovery. Type in the comments, "I am ready to learn from every trigger and grow through it." 6. Self-worth comes from within, not others. You stop being reactive the moment you stop outsourcing your identity. As long as your sense of self-worth is built on the approval, validation, or recognition of others, you remain vulnerable to every shift in their mood, tone, or opinion. Carl Jung taught that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And that journey begins when you no longer hand your power to others. Their words, their judgments, their silence, none of it should determine your value. When your self-worth is externally dependent, every interaction becomes a test. A raised eyebrow feels like rejection. A missed compliment feels like failure. But once you start drawing your identity from within, the game changes. You no longer live to be seen. You live to be aligned. You speak not to impress, but to express. Their approval becomes a bonus, not a requirement. And in that shift, you gain something priceless: inner freedom. Mia, a talented designer, used to live for validation. Her boss's comments shaped her mood, her confidence, her sleep. Every piece of feedback echoed louder than her own voice. But after immersing herself in healing work and Carl Jung's spiritual wisdom, she realized something profound about her boss wasn't the problem. Her dependency on external validation was. She stopped needing to be affirmed to feel worthy. She started creating from a place of self-trust, and in doing so, she reclaimed her peace. That's the power of individuation. According to Jung, it's the process of separating your authentic self from the false identities you've worn to survive identities like the people pleaser, the overachiever, or the one who's always agreeable. These masks may win praise, but they cost you your soul. When you release them, you don't become less connected, you become more whole. You don't lose compassion, you gain boundaries. Emotional sovereignty doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care without collapsing. It means you hear someone's opinion without absorbing it into your self-definition. You can love people without needing their permission to feel whole. You can accept feedback without shrinking. And you can walk away from misunderstanding without needing to explain your worth. Carl Jung also reminded us that everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. So when someone's words sting, ask yourself, what part of me still believes them? What story inside me do they confirm? Often, their voice is just an echo of a wound that hasn't been seen yet. And healing doesn't always mean fixing it, it means integrating. You carry the pain, yes, but now with wisdom. You see your triggers not as flaws, but as invitations. The moment you stop needing others to tell you who you are, their opinions lose weight. Your energy stops leaking. Your peace becomes steady. You become a mirror of strength, not because you force it, but because you remember it. When your identity is rooted within, you don't need to defend it, you embody it. And that is spiritual wisdom in motion. Comment below, my worth comes from within, if you're ready to stop seeking validation and start standing fully in your power. 7. True power is psychological sovereignty. Carl Jung called it individuation, the sacred path of becoming whole by owning every fragment of your inner world. You don't reach power by numbing your heart or silencing your soul. You arrive at true strength when the places that once bled have been tended to with such honesty and presence that they no longer cry out. You don't flinch when someone disapproves, because you've already accepted the parts of you they're pointing at. You don't chase people who leave, because you no longer abandon yourself. You don't over-explain, because you've made peace with being misunderstood. This is not arrogance. This is what it feels like to be internally free. This freedom doesn't mean you feel nothing. It means you're no longer ruled by everything. Anger, sadness, and pain still come and go, but they don't possess you. You don't react automatically. You don't spiral. Instead, you witness. You allow the emotion to rise and pass like a wave that no longer knocks you over, because the ocean within you is no longer chaotic. This is not cold detachment. It is warm awareness. It is spiritual wisdom in motion, the kind that says, I trust myself enough to feel everything without collapsing into anything. You become untouchable, not because you hide, but because you've healed. The judgment of others can no longer define you, because you've already looked your shadows in the eye and stayed. When someone criticizes, you pause not to internalize their words, but to ask, does this resonate with the truth I know in me? And if it doesn't, you release it. You don't carry every dart that's thrown your way. You've built inner walls made of clarity, not fear. You've stopped needing to convince anyone of your worth, because your being alone is the evidence. This kind of power cannot be faked. You can't pretend your way into sovereignty. No meditation trick, no affirmation repeated 1,000 times can replace the deep work of integration. Real peace is earned. It comes from sitting with discomfort until it no longer threatens you. It comes from witnessing your jealousy, your rage, your insecurity, not to judge or banish them, but to understand what they protect. And in that understanding, their grip loosens. That's when you realize it was never about silencing your emotions. It was about learning their language. You don't need to become harder to protect your heart. You need to become softer with yourself. Gentleness is not weakness when it's rooted in self-respect. Silence is not avoidance when it's chosen with discernment. Boundaries are not walls when they're drawn from love, not fear. Spiritual wisdom teaches us that we don't ascend by escaping life. We rise by descending into our own depths and learning how to hold ourselves through it. And so, the people who once triggered you become mirrors, not threats. Their judgments become reflections, not verdicts. They're leaving becomes redirection, not rejection. You no longer fear losing them because you've stopped losing yourself. This is what it means to live whole, not perfect, not unaffected, but rooted, clear, and profoundly free. If this message has stirred something deep within you, leave a comment of truth. I reclaim my power. I am whole, rooted, and free. And remember, mastery over your emotions doesn't mean you never feel them. It means they no longer control you. As Carl Jung reminded us, what irritates us most often reveals what's unhealed within. So the next time someone triggers you, pause and ask, what part of me is asking to be seen? If this message helped shift your perspective, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom. Make sure you turn on notifications so you never miss the insights we share to help you grow in peace, power, and presence. Until next time, stay grounded, stay conscious, and stay true to your inner light. Act as if everything always works out for you. Act as if what you do makes a difference. It does. William James. What if your mindset could shape your reality? What if simply believing that everything always works out for you could actually transform the outcome? In this video, we explore Carl Jung's powerful insight into how belief shapes experience and how adopting this mindset can create a deep shift in your energy, choices, and destiny. At Spiritual Wisdom, we invite you to live each day with intention, trust, and inner power. Have you ever acted as if and watched life respond in kind? Share your experience in the comments below. Let's grow together. 1. Your belief shapes reality. The way you perceive the world is not a passive observation. It is an act of creation. When you act as if everything always works out for you, you're not pretending. You're participating in a deeper truth, one that reshapes your inner state and magnetizes your outer world. This is not about blind optimism. It's about aligning your inner belief system with the life you desire to manifest. You begin to filter the world through a different lens, and that lens alters your experience of reality. What you expect, you invite. What you believe, you build. And what you act on, you embody. Spiritual wisdom teaches us that your mindset is more than just thoughts in your head. It's the energetic blueprint you broadcast. When you step into your day as if you are already supported, loved, and guided, you shift your vibration. That shift becomes magnetic. You begin to draw in people, places, and possibilities that echo your inner conviction. This is not just spiritual law, it is psychological truth. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." The moment you begin to live as though all things are working in your favor, you start making the unconscious conscious, and your so-called fate becomes intentional design. To act as if it is not to deceive yourself, it's to reprogram yourself. This posture transforms doubt into momentum and fear into openness. The storms of life may still come, but now you face them as a co-creator, not a victim. Your power lies not in controlling the outcome, but in mastering the perspective. And when you begin to act as though success is inevitable, peace is present, and guidance surrounds you, your nervous system responds. Your energy softens. Your decisions sharpen. Your life moves. This practice isn't about denying reality. It's about choosing which version of reality to empower. When you wake up and declare, "Everything is always working out for me," you're not ignoring pain. or pretending problems don't exist. You're anchoring yourself in faith. And faith, according to spiritual wisdom, isn't the absence of challenge. It's the presence of inner certainty in the midst of it. Athletes visualize their success before they step into the arena. Healers invite their desired energy before they begin their day. You too have that power. And the more you embody it, the more it becomes your truth. Consistency is the secret. This isn't a one-time affirmation. It's a lifestyle. Every time you act as if the best is already unfolding, you're creating mental grooves, emotional pathways, and energetic signatures that align you with a higher version of yourself. This version of you doesn't wait for signs. She becomes the sign. He doesn't ask for proof. He becomes the proof. Acting as if it is not arrogance, nor is it delusion. It is a sacred reclamation of your inner authority and your divine right to co-create a life of harmony, trust, and expansion. The more you practice this posture, the more the universe begins to reflect it back to you. Not instantly, not always clearly, but always faithfully. When your internal frequency rises, your external experiences eventually adjust. It may come in unexpected ways: a delayed blessing, a closed door that protects you, or a gentle redirection that leads to something greater. But behind it all, there's a sacred intelligence that rewards alignment. And acting as if is one of the fastest ways to align with what you've been praying for. Because the truth is, life doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to who you are being. And when you walk in spiritual wisdom, acting as if everything is already working for your highest good, you're not chasing the light. You're becoming it. Have you ever consciously shifted your beliefs to change your reality? If so, share your story in the comments so we can grow together. If not, simply comment, "I will try." And let this be the first step in aligning your mind with the life you truly desire. 2. Perception is a creative force. You are not simply observing reality. You are constantly shaping it through the lens of your beliefs, emotions, and expectations. Every thought you entertain, every feeling you nurture, becomes a brushstroke painting the canvas of your experience. What you anticipate emotionally doesn't just color how you feel. It triggers your nervous system, influences your behavior, and alters what you notice and attract. This is not fantasy. It is a psychological and energetic truth. The world you live in is molded not by external events alone, but by the story you're telling yourself about those events. Carl Jung taught that perception is reality, and this spiritual wisdom echoes across both psychology and metaphysics. Two people can live in the same city, work the same job, face the same challenge, and yet experience radically different lives. One is stressed, the other calm. One sees limitation, the other sees opportunity. The difference lies not in the world itself, but in how their inner world filters and interprets it. What you expect to see, you will find. What you emotionally assume, you will magnetize. That's how powerful your perception truly is. Acting as if everything always works out for you isn't about pretending. It's about entering into alignment with a higher spiritual frequency. You begin to embody trust, hope, and openness, not as a blind fantasy, but as an energetic state that signals your nervous system to relax, your intuition to sharpen, and your path to unfold with greater ease. You walk into a room and people feel your calm confidence. You face uncertainty and your spirit remains unshaken. That posture begins to shift not only how you feel, but how life responds to you. The act of acting as if becomes a ritual of transformation. It's not about denying the presence of obstacles. It's about refusing to see them as bigger than your power to overcome. This is the moment of spiritual awakening, where you remember that you are not a passive observer of life's chaos. You are a co-creator. You are shaping your experience from the inside out. When you adopt this mindset, you activate a different kind of presence, one that creates space for synchronicity, divine timing, and grace. Your perception becomes a magnet. The more you live from the vibration of, "It is already working in my favor," the more life reveals proof of that truth. Not because it magically changes the world, but because it tunes your awareness to patterns, people, and paths that support your growth. You stop seeing problems as punishments and start recognizing them as invitations. You begin to live as though the universe is not against you, but with you, whispering possibilities into your intuition and aligning circumstances in ways logic can't explain. And so, you stop asking, "What will go wrong today?" and start expecting miracles. You rise with the quiet knowing that even if you can't see the full picture yet, something within you is guiding the way. You act as if, not because you're delusional, but because you're finally remembering the truth. Your inner world is the blueprint of your outer life. And that is the core of spiritual wisdom. Comment below. I create through perception. If you're ready to shape your reality from the inside out. 3. Your energy attracts your experiences. Your energy is your signature, your frequency, your silent message to the universe, and that message is always being heard. When you carry the belief that life works out for you, you shift your vibration into alignment with possibility. This is not wishful thinking. This is spiritual discipline. Carl Jung said, "What you resist not only persists, but will grow in size." So when you stop resisting life and begin to embody trust, even when nothing outside of you has changed, everything inside of you starts to recalibrate. You become the kind of person who moves with quiet certainty, not because everything is perfect, but because you no longer doubt your ability to move through the imperfect with grace. Belief becomes energy. It moves through your voice, your walk, your posture. When you wake up in the morning and carry the energy of someone who expects miracles, you become magnetic to better outcomes. Not because you force them, but because you're now attuned to receive them. There's a reason the people who expect good things tend to experience more of them. Their minds are not looking for what's broken. They're tuned to what's unfolding. It's not about ignoring pain. It's about learning how to stand in the storm and still believe in the sun. Look at Maya's life. A tired single mother, buried in bills and exhaustion, she reached a point where something had to shift. One day, she chose to act as if everything always works out. She didn't fake a smile. She changed her state. She breathed deeper, walked slower, and reminded herself that pressure does not define her. Within days, things began to open. A friend offered unexpected help. A job lead arrived without effort. What changed? Her energy. Her internal frequency began to mirror faith instead of fear. And the world, as it always does, responded to her vibration, not her desperation. Confidence does not come from control. It comes from surrender. You radiate something different when you stop performing and start believing. When you stop needing and start trusting. People can feel when you're grounded in a truth deeper than appearances. Carl Jung understood that the unconscious shapes everything, and when your unconscious belief is rooted in trust, you begin to attract not only new results, but a new reality. You stop asking, "What if it all goes wrong?" and start whispering, "What if it's all working out exactly as it should?" This isn't about pretending. It's about reclaiming your role as a co-creator with life. Your energy is not random. It's intentional. The more you practice embodying peace, openness, and self-worth, the more your outer world adjusts to match your inner state. This is the essence of spiritual wisdom. You don't chase alignment. You become it. You don't beg for support. You expect it. Not from arrogance, but from awareness. Every thought becomes a blueprint. Every belief becomes a bridge. Your job is not to fix everything. It's to become the version of you who no longer blocks the flow. Because when you align your energy with trust, grace follows. People listen differently. Doors open quietly. Life begins to echo your inner shift. And that's not just coincidence. That's the energetic cause and effect the wisdom Carl Jung spoke of. Not in abstract theory, but in lived experience. Leave a like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss powerful insights like this. Comment below. I attract experiences that align with my highest energy. If you're ready to embody the energy of abundance and trust. 4. Action creates confidence. Confidence is not something you wait to feel, it's something you create through action. The idea of acting as if everything always works out for you is not self-deception. It's a spiritual wisdom rooted in the understanding that the subconscious responds to repetition, embodiment, and belief in motion. When you begin to behave in alignment with the life you want, even before you fully believe you deserve it, you send a powerful signal to your mind, your energy field, and the universe that says, "I'm ready." This readiness, this embodied faith, becomes the gateway to transformation. Your posture, your tone, your rhythm. These are not just outward expressions. They're tools that directly affect how your nervous system responds. Research in psychology shows that changing your physical state, like standing tall or speaking with calm authority, can trigger changes in your biochemistry. The body begins to release hormones associated with strength, safety, and assurance. You literally step into a new energetic vibration when you choose to carry yourself as if you are already who you wish to become. In that shift, your emotional state rises to match your movement. You don't wait for confidence to act, you act, and confidence follows. This mindset is not limited to success or ambition. It's deeply spiritual. If you've been through pain, loss, or rejection, acting as if everything is working out for you is an act of courage. It's a refusal to be defined by circumstances. When you treat yourself with love, even when you feel unworthy, or speak your truth, even when your voice trembles, you are choosing a higher path. Spiritual wisdom teaches us that the soul doesn't evolve in certainty, it evolves in trust. Trust in the unseen, in divine timing, in the knowing that every challenge carries within it the seed of grace. A woman rebuilding her life after heartbreak may not feel strong, but when she rises each day with discipline, when she dresses with care and applies for opportunities despite the fear, she activates a force greater than logic. She becomes a magnet for new beginnings. Her transformation didn't begin with healing, it began with action. This is the sacred power of acting as if. When you embody the vibration of peace, you start to recognize peace around you. When you show up as someone who is already worthy of love, your life reorganizes itself to reflect that truth. Carl Jung once said that you are what you do, not what you say you'll do. The act of doing, even if you feel shaky, rewires your mind. You begin to experience the world not as a place of lack, but as a field of possibility. In this field, the law of attraction is activated not by begging or waiting, but by living as if your desires are already on their way. That doesn't mean pretending you have no pain. It means refusing to let your pain define your direction. It means choosing to believe that what is meant for you is already in motion, even if you can't yet see the evidence. To act as if it is to live in alignment with the future version of you. It is a quiet revolution of the soul, a spiritual strategy that calls blessings forward by making space for them now. When you shift your behavior, you shift your identity. When you shift your identity, your world transforms to match it. You're not faking anything. You're remembering who you really are before the world taught you to doubt. That's not arrogance. That's power. That's faith. That's freedom. Do you believe that action creates confidence? Then claim it in the comments. I build my confidence through action. 5. Letting go brings peace. Letting go is not a sign of weakness. It is a mark of deep spiritual strength. Control, more often than not, is simply fear in disguise. A subtle, anxious need to dominate the unknown because we're afraid of being hurt, of failing, or of losing something we hold dear. But the harder we grip, the more we suffocate the very life we're trying to protect. That tension blocks our natural flow, clouding our inner clarity and keeping us locked in a cycle of emotional resistance. As Carl Jung wisely observed, what you resist not only persists, but grows. The very act of resistance amplifies what we fear, feeding it energy and weight. Think about the farmer. He plants the seed, covers it gently with soil, and walks away, not because he doesn't care, but because he trusts the process. He doesn't return every hour to dig it up and see if it's growing. He doesn't panic when clouds appear. He knows that growth takes time, and he aligns himself with the natural rhythm of things. That quiet trust is a profound spiritual wisdom, an understanding that surrender does not mean passivity, but participation in a larger order. When you stop trying to force every outcome, when you stop micromanaging your life like a battlefield, peace has a chance to enter. Not because the chaos disappears, but because your inner resistance to it dissolves. This is where a true spiritual awakening begins. It's not found in the loud moments of revelation, but in the silent decision to stop pushing. To act with intention, yes, but to let go of the outcome. You stop clinging and start flowing. You allow space for grace. You create room for the universe to meet you halfway. In that surrender, you begin to embody a deeper truth. Things don't always need to make sense to work out. Miracles often arrive disguised as detours, and blessings sometimes hide behind delays. Letting go teaches you that peace isn't a reward you earn through control. It's a natural result of trust. A calm confidence emerges when you no longer try to fix every variable, and instead start showing up with faith. You stop reacting from fear and begin responding from wisdom. The anxiety begins to fade, not because life becomes easier, but because your soul stops resisting what is. To act as if everything always works out for you is not fantasy. It is spiritual discipline. It is declaring, day by day, that you trust life even when you can't predict it, that you're aligned with a greater intelligence moving through all things, that your job is not to force the seed to grow, but to water it with faith and patience. In that mindset, peace is no longer a fleeting moment. it becomes your home. If this message speaks to you, repeat after me. I release control and choose peace. I trust the timing of my life. Let it anchor in your heart. And if you're ready to live with that peace, type it in the comments below. 6. You are a co-creator, not a victim. Living as if life supports you is not about ignoring reality. It's about choosing a mindset that aligns with your inner strength instead of your fears. Carl Jung taught that what we believe unconsciously will shape our lives, whether we realize it or not. So when you begin to act with the quiet confidence that everything is working in your favor, you're not escaping life. You're stepping into it with power. Pain, failure, and delays no longer appear as punishment. They become messages, redirections that guide you toward alignment with your deeper path. There is a hidden strength in those who trust during uncertain times. Think of someone who loses their job but decides not to spiral. Instead, they take the loss as a sign, an opening. They start showing up with the belief that something better is on the way. And that belief opens doors, not just metaphorically, but energetically. The way they carry themselves changes. They speak differently. They create space for something new, and the world responds. This isn't magic, it's alignment. When you stop identifying as a victim and embrace your role as a co-creator, your life begins to shift. Carl Jung believed deeply in the alchemy of transformation, the inner work of turning emotional lead into spiritual gold. This means that your wounds, your heartbreaks, your disappointments are not failures of fate. They are initiations. They are the call to awaken the part of you that can respond with meaning and courage, that can say, this too has purpose. This inner posture invites a new relationship with life itself. You no longer wait for circumstances to validate your worth. You walk as if you already know you're supported. You face difficulties not with despair, but with presence, asking, what is life trying to teach me right now? That question alone opens a doorway to wisdom. Because when you begin to trust life, life begins to trust you back. You meet grace, not because everything is easy, but because you've learned to look deeper than surface chaos. Every challenge becomes an opportunity for inner refinement. Delays become divine timing. Rejection becomes redirection. And what others see as endings, you begin to see as sacred pauses, the silence before the breakthrough. Carl Jung reminds us that until we bring the unconscious into awareness, we will continue to suffer under the illusion that life is random. But once we wake up, once we choose to act as if life is conspiring for us, everything changes from our energy to our outcomes. Your ability to hold this mindset, especially when life feels unstable, is the mark of true spiritual maturity. This is spiritual wisdom in action, not theory, but daily, quiet strength. When you carry yourself with the energy of someone who believes that unseen forces are guiding your steps, you shift your frequency. You rise above fear, and in doing so, you begin to draw experiences that match your new vibration. You become magnetic, not through force, but through faith. Not by chasing, but by trusting. And this trust does not make you passive, it empowers you. It teaches you to respond instead of react. It builds the kind of inner stability that cannot be shaken by temporary circumstances. Acting as if everything always works out for you is not about pretending. It's about committing to a deeper truth that you are not here to merely survive chaos, but to transmute it, to become the calm within the storm, to become the creator of a life that reflects your belief in the goodness that is always unfolding beneath the surface. If you're ready to stop feeling like a victim and start living like a co-creator, hit subscribe and join us on the path of spiritual wisdom and transformation. 7. Embodied belief awakens reality. You don't need to wait for a sign, you become the sign. When your actions, your posture, your energy align with belief, you stop waiting for proof and start radiating the very evidence of faith. This is not about pretending. It's about embodying a quiet certainty that life is unfolding for you, even when nothing external has changed yet. It's about becoming the mirror that reflects back what you've already decided to believe inside. When you carry faith in your bones, not just in your words, it seeps into everything you do. Your belief no longer needs validation. It begins shaping the very field you walk through. When you move with the energy of everything always works out for me, you start noticing that doors open a little faster, conversations feel lighter, and people treat you differently. It's not that life suddenly becomes perfect. It's that your alignment allows you to meet life with calm, confidence, and grace. You no longer fear uncertainty because you've already decided it will work in your favor. Spiritual wisdom teaches us that alignment is louder than logic, and frequency speaks before words. When you walk into a room with faith written all over your being, life listens. There's a subtle power in shifting from hope to embodiment. Hoping says, "I wish things would get better." Embodiment declares, "Things are already working out." And that declaration doesn't come from arrogance, it comes from sovereignty. You become a vibrational match for the reality you want to live. You don't beg for miracles, you breathe like you're living inside one. The world, in turn, responds not with guarantees, but with synchronicities, not with certainty, but with signs that whisper, "Yes, keep going." It's in the way you carry yourself, the way you speak about your future, as if it's already unfolding in your favor. The way you make choices, not from fear of failure, but from love for the vision that's calling you forward. Your energy becomes your resume. Your presence becomes your prophecy. You become the living evidence of unseen truths. And when challenges come, and they will, you meet them, not with panic, but with presence. Because belief doesn't promise a smooth path. It offers you unshakable footing. It gives you the ability to say, "Even this is working for me." That's not delusion. That's divine cooperation. It's spiritual wisdom in motion. It's trust without needing a reason. It's moving before the bridge appears. And often, it's that very step into the unknown that calls the bridge into existence. This is how reality bends, not by force, but by frequency. Not by wishing, but by becoming. Your belief shapes the invisible currents around you. It colors the way people perceive you. It changes the way life meets you. When you stop performing faith and start living it, you activate something ancient, something true, the energy of co-creation. That is the real secret. That is the power of walking in alignment with your higher self. That is the truth behind acting as if everything always works out for you. If this message resonates with your soul, declare it in the comments. I embody belief, and life is aligning in my favor. And if you're ready to walk in faith and possibility, like this video, subscribe, and stay connected for more spiritual wisdom that awakens your true power. Thank you for joining us on this journey of inner belief and transformation. Even when life feels uncertain, remember that your mindset can shape your reality. Acting as if everything always works out isn't pretending, it's aligning yourself with faith, possibility, and the unseen forces working in your favor. If this message resonated with you, please like this video, share it with someone who needs encouragement today, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom for more insights like this. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss our upcoming videos. Until next time, keep walking in trust and know that the universe is always working in your favor.